The great mountain of Valdres stood at the center of the world, its peak touching the clouds and its roots reaching deep into the earth where ancient fires still burned. Inside this mountain, carved into the living rock over 10,000 years, was the Chamber of Eternal Flame. Here, the 12 elder dragons gathered once every century to discuss matters of cosmic importance. Today, they had gathered to decide the fate of a species that had grown too bold, too clever, and far too dangerous. Morthax the Ancient, whose scales were black as the void between stars, sat upon his throne of obsidian. His eyes, burning with the light of 1,000 suns, looked upon his fellow council members. To his left sat Venara the Stormbringer, her blue scales crackling with electricity. To his right was Pyranos the World Burner, whose mere breath could turn cities to ash. The other 9 dragons, each a master of their own terrible power, waited in silence. "We have observed the humans for 3,000 years, Morthax spoke, his voice rumbling like thunder through the chamber. When we first discovered them, they were primitive creatures hiding in caves, barely different from the animals they hunted. We thought nothing of them. We were wrong." Venara shifted on her throne, lightning dancing between her claws. "They have grown too quickly. In 3,000 years, they have gone from stone tools to machines that fly through the sky. They have weapons now that can level mountains. They are no longer the frightened creatures we once ignored. They killed Gormuth," Pyranos growled, smoke rising from his nostrils. "They killed one of us, a dragon. They built a weapon specifically designed to pierce dragon scales, and they used it. Gormuth was young, only 800 years old, but he was still a dragon. If they can kill one of us, they can kill more." The chamber fell silent. The death of Gormuth had shocked the dragon world. For millions of years, dragons had been the supreme predators of this planet. Nothing could challenge them. Nothing could harm them. But humans had changed that. They had studied dragon anatomy, learned their weaknesses, and created weapons to exploit them. It was a violation of the natural order. "I have watched their cities grow," said Crystallos, the ice dragon whose frozen breath could create glaciers. "They multiply like insects. Their population doubles every few centuries. They consume resources at an alarming rate. They pollute the waters, poison the air, and destroy the forests. If we do nothing, they will ruin this world." Morthax nodded slowly. "This is why we have gathered. The question before us is simple. What do we do with humanity? Do we continue to watch from the shadows? Do we reveal ourselves and attempt to coexist? Or do we eliminate the threat before it grows too powerful to stop?" One by one, the dragons spoke. Some argued for patience, suggesting that humans might destroy themselves without any intervention. Others proposed limited strikes, targeting only their military installations and weapons factories. A few suggested revealing themselves to humanity and establishing some form of communication. But most voices called for something far more final. "Why? They are a disease," said Shadowmere, the darkness dragon whose very presence extinguished light. "And we must be the cure. Every day we wait, they grow stronger. Every year that passes, their technology advances. In another century, they might have weapons that could threaten all of us. We must act now, while we still hold the advantage." The vote was called. Each dragon raised their voice in turn. The decision was not unanimous, but it was decisive. 10 dragons voted for extinction. 2 voted against. The fate of humanity was sealed. "Then it is decided," Morthax declared, rising from his throne. His massive wings unfurled, casting shadows across the entire chamber. "In 3 days, we will descend upon the human world. We will burn their cities, destroy their machines, and wipe their species from the face of this planet. By the time the sun sets on the 4th day, humanity will exist only in memory. This is the judgment of the Dragon Council. This is the verdict of extinction by fire." The dragons left the mountain and returned to their territories to prepare. They gathered their strength, sharpened their claws, and let the fires in their bellies build to their maximum intensity. They had done this before, wiping out troublesome species that threatened the balance of the world. It would be easy, they told themselves. Humans were soft, fragile creatures. Their cities would burn. Their defenses would crumble. Their screams would echo across the continents as dragon fire consumed everything they had built. But something unexpected happened in those 3 days. One of the dragons who had voted against extinction, an ancient being named Sylvanus, who had lived longer than any other member of the council, made a choice that would change everything. Sylvanus had spent more time watching humans than any other dragon. He had seen them at their worst, yes, but he had also seen them at their best. He had watched them build hospitals to heal their sick. He had watched them create art and music of surprising beauty. He had watched them show kindness to strangers, sacrifice themselves for loved ones, and fight against injustice even when the odds were impossible. Sylvanus flew to the largest human city on the planet, a sprawling metropolis of 20 million souls. He landed in the central square, his appearance causing panic and chaos. People screamed and ran. Military vehicles rushed to the scene. Weapons were aimed at his massive form, but Sylvanus did not attack. Instead, he spoke. "I am Sylvanus of the Dragon Council." His voice boomed across the city, carried by winds that he controlled. "I come with a warning. In 2 days, the dragons will attack your world. They have voted for your extinction. Every city will burn. Every human will die. I voted against this decision, but I was overruled. I am giving you this warning because I believe you deserve a chance to survive. What you do with this information is up to you." Then Sylvanus flew away, leaving humanity in shock. At first, no one believed it. Dragons were myths, legends, stories told to children, but the evidence was undeniable. The creature that had appeared was real. The warning was real. And the deadline was approaching fast. Within hours, the message had spread to every corner of the globe. Governments that had been enemies for decades suddenly found themselves facing a common threat. Military leaders who had planned wars against each other now gathered to plan the defense of their entire species. Scientists who had been working on separate projects began sharing their research openly. The world united in a way it never had before. They had only 48 hours. It seemed impossible. But humans had always done impossible things when their survival was at stake. Deep in a research facility in the Swiss mountains, a team of physicists had been working on an experimental energy shield technology. It was years from completion, they said. It would take decades to perfect. But now, with extinction approaching, they worked without sleep, without rest, pushing themselves beyond all limits. In 30 hours, they had a working prototype. It was crude, unstable, and could only cover a small area, but it could stop dragon fire. In factories across the world, workers built copies of the device as fast as they could. The designs were shared freely, distributed to every nation, every city, every town that could build them. There was no time for patents or profits. There was only time for survival. Military forces prepared their weapons, but the scientists knew conventional arms would not be enough. They needed something new. Something that could pierce dragon scales and hurt beings that had never known injury. A young researcher in Tokyo remembered an old study about resonance frequencies. Every material had a frequency at which it would vibrate and eventually shatter. Dragon scales might be harder than any metal, but they were still matter. They still had a resonance point. Working through the night, teams across the world calculated the theoretical frequency. They built emitters that could produce it. They tested it on samples of dragon scale that had been found at ancient battle sites. The scales shattered like glass. When dawn broke on the 3rd day, humanity was ready. Not fully prepared, not perfectly equipped, but ready. Ready to fight. Ready to show the dragons that they had made a terrible mistake. The attack came at noon. 12 dragons descended from the clouds. their shadows darkening entire cities. Morthax led the assault, his massive form blocking out the sun as he approached the first target. He opened his mouth to release his fire, the flames building in his throat with the heat of a star. But the fire never reached the city. A shimmering shield of energy appeared, deflecting the flames back into the sky. Morthax roared in surprise and attacked again. Again, the shield held. The humans had created something that could stop dragon fire. It should have been impossible, but here it was. The other dragons met similar resistance. Cities that should have burned stood protected behind walls of energy. And then the counterattack began. Sonic emitters fired, producing the precise frequency calculated to shatter dragon scales. The sound was beyond human hearing, but dragons felt it in every fiber of their being. Scales that had never been scratched began to crack. Pyranos, the world burner, screamed in pain as his chest plate split open. Venara crashed to the earth, her wings failing as the resonance tore through her body. The humans attacked with everything they had. Missiles found their marks on weakened dragons. Artillery pounded creatures that had never known such pain. For the first time in millions of years, dragons felt fear. Within 3 hours, the battle was over. 6 dragons lay dead, their bodies cooling on the ground. 4 more wounded, captured by human forces and contained in specially designed prisons. Only Morthax and Sylvanus remained free. Morthax, wounded and bleeding, fled back to Valdros, his mind struggling to comprehend what had happened. Sylvanus had not participated in the battle. He had watched from a distance, and despite everything, he found himself smiling. The Dragon Council had underestimated humanity. They had seen them as insects, as a disease to be eradicated. But humans were something far more dangerous. They were survivors. They were innovators. They were a species that had clawed its way from caves to cities in the blink of an eye by cosmic standards. When faced with extinction, they did not surrender. They did not pray for mercy. They fought back with everything they had. In the weeks that followed, Sylvanus became an ambassador between dragons and humans. The surviving members of the council, humbled and afraid, agreed to negotiations. A treaty was signed, establishing territories for both species, rules of engagement, and promises of peace. It was an uneasy peace, built on mutual respect born from battle, but it held. Morthax never recovered from his wounds. He died 3 months after the attack. His last words a warning to the remaining dragons to never again underestimate the small, fragile creatures that walked on 2 legs and dreamed of touching the stars. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. They had defeated beings of myth and legend through courage, ingenuity, and unity. And in doing so, they had proven something that no other species in the history of the planet had ever proven before. Dragons were not the apex predators they believed themselves to be. Humans were.